Hi there, it's Billy Tarasio again. And today's topic is surrounding the biggest fears that people have when they're getting ready to enter into a court case. Now, divorce is the biggest, but this really happens to anybody who's going to file for child support or to modify your existing order. There's a lot of anxiety that happens before you file and during the process. Some of the biggest fears surrounding divorce are, how much is this going to cost me? What's going to happen to my assets? Maybe where am I going to live? How much am I going to get in child support? How much am I going to have to pay? All of these fears are real because guess what? Divorce is one of the biggest life-changing events that you're going to face. And it's not like a move where you intentionally decide, here's what I'm going to do and here's how I'm going to do it. And most of society looks at that as a positive thing. There is so much stigma regarding divorce. There really is for a lot of families. And while some families are very supportive and open and understand that these things happen and they want to be supportive of both parties moving forward, there are other families that will simply condemn one or both divorcing parties. You have to deal with the fear of, what are people going to think? What is my ex going to say? If you're in a violent relationship, then there's also a fear of, well, what if it gets worse? And sometimes it might get worse, but there's nothing you can do except for go through this process. So what I'm telling you is there will be fear, there will be anxiety, but you can do it. And it does get better. Your life does get better. No one goes into a divorce easily. Or if you're breaking up from a long-term relationship and you're figuring out a custody plan, that's not an easy decision. If you're determining that you want to modify an existing order, you're still thinking to yourself, is this going to rock the boat? Is it going to be worth it? How much money is it going to cost? How much am I going to lose? What's on the table? These are issues that are as personal as they get. Our children, our financial stability, our home, it doesn't get more personal than this. And what your divorce attorneys need to understand is that a divorce is not simply a legal transaction. And in fact, the legal part's easy. Even complicated, messy situations provide for a relatively easy legal system and structure that we experienced divorce attorneys can work within. What's much more difficult is the waiting, is the limbo, is the time period between when you decide to file for divorce and when you actually file. Or when he decides or she decides that she's going to file, but then you don't, and you're just waiting to be served. Or the time between, when someone served the paperwork and you're waiting for a final trial. And then after your trial, you're still not done because you're waiting for a ruling. These are people's fears. And so what can you do? Well, you probably need to get a counselor. Every single one of us that goes through divorce could use a counselor to help process all of these emotions, all of these fears, all of these options. And then, the other thing that happens after the end of marriage is that there's a lot of, I think, guilt and people feel failure. And so being able to process that will help make your legal process easier. So get a counselor. Whenever possible, decrease your expenses. If you decrease your expenses, you will have less anxiety over money. You will have more control. Simplify your life just as much as you possibly can. It will make things easier for you and your children. Now, some people think they need to keep their marital home, but if you can't afford the marital home, then you're creating more anxiety for yourself than you need to, and you need to simplify. That's my best advice to you. Be patient. This process takes longer than you want it to. And sometimes it cannot be rushed. And sometimes rushing gets you a worse outcome than waiting for both parties to emotionally process what they need to process so that then a good, mutually beneficial decision can be reached. Gather your financial resources. Gather your resources as far as your family and friends. Get yourself a tribe of people who will support you. And then put up walls for anybody who's not in that tribe. If someone's not going to support you, if somebody's going to judge you, if somebody's tearing you down, they simply don't get to be in your life right now. Maybe later, but not right now. So I know this was a little bit of a heavy video, but I want you to know what to expect. And if you have questions or comments, let me know, and I'll talk to you soon.